Marco Leandro Beyens, and you are listening to the Special Card podcast series registered at the occasion of the 2022 edition of the NCAT Academy. The goal of this podcast series is to learn how to become a change maker for a sustainable future. In this podcast series, you will listen to European leaders working in the broad field of culture. They will present you their work, their experience, their solutions to the current challenges and how they have used their digital, managerial and green skills in an innovative way, and thus to ensure a greener future. In this podcast, I have the pleasure to welcome Branko Popovic, the founder of FASHIONCLASH Festival.
My name is Branko Popovic, and I am a co-founder and co-director of FASHIONCLASH Foundation, based in Maastricht, in the Netherlands. FASHIONCLASH is an interdisciplinary showcase and development platform for fashion and fashion culture in the worldwide network of emerging fashion makers. FASHIONCLASH started in 2009 as a foundation, born out of a necessity, us being local designers in Maastricht, in a place where people are usually leaving the city. After we graduated at the Art Academy, me and my friends, co-founders who are also designers themselves, we had this idea, well, why not try to do something here? And we can always move if it doesn't work out. So what we said we should, as being aspiring young designers, we needed a place to showcase our work. And this was something that was missing. And also let's look back at the moment that 2009 was the pre-social media digital era time. This was all quite new. So having a place to showcase your work was much more complex, and you really needed a physical space to be seen. So we decided to do this in Maastricht and to organize a fashion event where young designers could present their work, and among them ourselves. So how it started, that when you want to do that, you realize you need money and you need partners. And this is all what we didn't have. And we also didn't have experience. So we went to the city council and said, okay, we want to do this and we want to stay in Maastricht, but we need money. But then they say to us, well, you need to be a foundation to be getting a public funding money. So then we said, okay, let's start a foundation. And this is how it started. And then because you literally, by doing so, you'll actually learn what you have to do. So in 2009, we established the FASHIONCLASH Foundation, and we, in the same year, organized the first FASHIONCLASH Festival. So this was the start of it all. And the reason why we called it FASHIONCLASH, not to be just, let's say, Fashion Week Maastricht, was because initially already we were driven by the idea, how can fashion contribute to a better life and to more sustainable society? So for us, calling it FASHIONCLASH also meant that our aim is to engage and organize collaborations. The actual name FASHIONCLASH already implies that it is about clashing contexts, putting fashion in a broader context, engaging with a broad audience, cross-disciplinary collaboration. This was something that we really believed in, that was beneficial for the positive development of our society. So after 2009, which was, let's say, our first attempt, it was also, I mean, you can imagine us being young designers and having this ambition. A lot of people were also looking down on us and saying, oh, look, these young people, they also want something. And we remember also from the capital, let's say in Amsterdam, they were, let's say, kind of making fun of it. Like, oh, Maastricht also wants to do something. But then we were also motivated by the idea that let's do it again. Let's do it in 2010, another edition and better. And that was actually the time when we saw a lot of potential in what we do, because we received, we had participants from 11 countries in the second year. And initially we thought this need for the platform is only a local problem, let's say local problem for smaller provincial cities. No, but this was actually designers from all over Europe who were contacting us. They wanted to show their work because apparently in all these areas, this was the problem. And a lot of designers, especially in the fashion context, struggle with showcasing their work because it's quite expensive. if you want to present yourself at the Fashion Week, there was something you could just not afford. And we created this very non-Western oriented, very democratic, for free platform where you can just apply and we take care of everything and you show your work. And so let's say this is a little bit long answer of how we started, but it was literally, let's say, designers driven collective that had this idea, and we established the foundation, and the foundation was the base of a long lasting relationship that until now, this is our 15th year that we are working on Fashion Clash. And one thing that hasn't changed is the initial, let's say, vision that we believe that fashion can actually be a tool that can be used for good. This actually hasn't changed. This was something that we believed in 2009, but still even more, the society is becoming more complex. The climate issues are more and more pressing us and urging us to be even more radical in what we do. And I mean, we don't have time to lose anymore. So that is a nice thing, actually, that after so many years, we still feel that there is a relevance in what we do and in our approach. So yeah, so Fashion Clash is still what it is actually when we started it. Well, when it comes to that, I mean, was what I explained how we've started, and that over the, let's say, course of since 2017, that Rana Plaza also happened, we started to be more urgent and pressing in what we do, and having even a more activistic approach as organizations, because we felt this is on one hand to showcase designers that are addressing certain issues or trying to come up with solutions. But it's also we as organizations, we see ourselves also as makers, and how we communicate and how we develop projects that has impact as well. And in the last years, we have been also working more and more cross-disciplinary. We are doing a lot of social participation projects, social design, research projects where we organize residencies, where designers could, for example, we had a group of designers working in the city of Maastricht. We would talk with the city council and ask, what are the challenges you have on societal level, which are never discussed with cultural parties? Why cannot a fashion designer be a sparring partner when it comes to city visions? So what I would like to speak about, especially when it comes to these, how can other sectors include the creative industries and artists and designers in collaboration? Because this is really what we need for the future. I mean, obviously, it's more evident to work together with other art forms, but what world needs is that more worlds get connected. So then when a designer shares a vision of the world together with someone that is more, let's say, on commercial economic side of it, this is when it becomes interesting, because you can develop that, you can find out that you have similar challenges, but then you solve them in a different way. And this also brings it to a more level playing field. We found out through our projects that this is something that really works and that really can have impact. And even though the impact can be small or large, it doesn't matter. This is something I would like to share mostly from our experience. Also, one of the examples is we are doing a project in a city called Tilburg. It's in the Netherlands. We are now connected to a 3-year program. This program is funded by UIA, which is a call from European Union about urban innovative actions. And the proposal was handed in by the city of Tilburg. Basically, the idea was, how can culture contribute to decrease of youth criminality? And we've been already now working in the city for 2 years, and then you find out how there is a bigger problem, actually. There is a problem of poverty and inequality that is bigger than a culture that can, through workshop, solve problems. And then you realize again, if there was a more of a collaboration and conversation between all the parties, then you would come up with a better, more impactful project. So for me, what I feel the strongest is when you can actually really share your methods and your projects. And we are very open and transparent about it. We don't have, I mean, we develop a lot of our projects ourselves, but there is no secret. For me, if someone wants to apply one of our methodologies, then please do, because then we can be faster in impact. And another example is also Well, we've been doing a lot of projects around to support sustainable fashion designers, but at the same time also to inform a broad audience about, let's say, more inform, but also inspire what ways could be used to be, let's say, to be a more ethical fashion consumer, or to inform them about different ideas designers are already doing. But then we realized what happens. We as an organization that is like, let's say, this cutting edge avant-garde or fashion organization, when we have an exhibition about sustainable fashion designers, we would mostly attract people that already like what we do. And the broad audience will look at these works and like them or not, or post photo on Instagram, but they will not have the actual impact in what they wanted to achieve. And then when we really discussed what could be ways for us to do a project that can have impact on the broad audience and not just entertain with visually stunning looks, we came up with the idea to develop a theater play for children that is about fashion and sustainability. And we have run a pilot last winter. So basically, it's a theater play that you can play in schools for age between 10 and 16. Let's say the age where development of your identity starts, and when you maybe start buying your own garments. So you basically engage in economic traffic. Then you can no longer say you don't have to do anything with fashion, because you actually spend money on it and you have choices. And so we have this play where they get to play, and after the play there is a conversation, and after that there is a workshop. And we immediately saw that already just having the conversation with teenagers about how they dress themselves, why do they make certain choices, that already had impact on how they saw what fashion is. And often they were quite aware of the fact that there is a climate change. They're very kind of also activistic about it, but they didn't know anything about the relationship between fashion industry and the climate change, which is obviously on many levels, but it was just not something they knew. Maybe one or two knew that, but they just didn't know. And already we saw that after having the conversation, they all experienced awareness. And then we saw that literally that had more impact than us having an exhibition showing sustainable fashion designers. So this is something that how we try to see how you come up with the idea. You test it with the potential target group. And then before you actually produce the project, you have done research, and then you engage the schools, you engage the people in the process, and then you come up with the methodology to do something, and that is going to have impact. And then you use public money with something that is actually really going to have impact. So that is something that we really like to share with others, and how by sharing our story, others could maybe see that in their practice they can do that as well. Or they could, I always say we could literally work with anyone. It could be, let's say, a sport club, and say we want to do something with you, then you can relate yourself to that context. And that is the beautiful thing about fashion, because eventually we all wear garments, whether there is from corporate world to anything. I mean, simply political, because we're not allowed to walk on street naked, because it's literally by the governmental, it's a rule that you must wear clothes when you're outside. So this is why fashion is always political, because it starts with everything that is regulated around us. And this, I think, is interesting, because then you make it a broader conversation and anyone can talk about this. In the nutshell, it's always been showing how fashion can be a role in a broader societal context. So when you use the art and the discipline and the culture of fashion, and you analyze it and use its way, how it's done and how people act around it, and the simple fact of that we all wear clothes, this is the base for all conversations and dialogues and projects. So how fashion, if you really look at it as broad as possible, can have its role within solving societal problems. And yeah, this is pretty much what has always been the case. Whether that is supporting young designers in your local town so that they don't leave the city, and you keep supporting, let's say, the local creative industry development, or it's about solving climate change problems, or it can be, let's say, problems that are more on human level when it comes to, let's say, gender diversity. So on all these level is where you can use fashion as a tool to come up with better solutions. On one hand, there are a lot of positive things happening. We work with mostly with new generation of designers, and in what they do, we see the change. I mean, literally, more and more designers are, for example, graduating with not even physical collections. There are designers graduating now with digital collections. We even had applications from designers having a sound collection. So there is not even, no longer even about physical garments. A lot of designers are aware of the fact that they are part of this problem as well, and they're trying to solve it. So me, that makes me optimistic, because if the new generation is already implementing change and new sustainable methods in their work, then on long term they are going to infiltrate into the bigger companies, and so this is eventually positive. So, and you see that also, I mean, obviously there are also bigger brands also trying to find more sustainable solutions. There are a lot of ethical initiatives. I mean, something like Fashion Revolution. I mean, it has been really strong and powerful how they've been creating this almost online activism, and a lot of people find more about it there. So also social media has helped us to be more informed about the problems. And obviously there is a lot of greenwashing, but still through that, more and more projects are also curating this information even. So when I see what is happening all around us, there is definitely more awareness and more action. And I'm looking forward to see what kind of world is it that, let's say, I always say in the most radical way, I always say to the designers, you always have to start from the idea that basically no one needs clothes anymore. We have produced so much that we don't need it, but we have still the need to express ourselves. So how is our expression not harming others? How is our desire to express ourselves not perversely enjoying the life of others? Because it was always what happened since modernity, that in colonialization, it's been exploitative. And fashion industry is exploiting the earth, exploiting people, exploiting gender diversity. It's on so many it causes harm. So on most positive aspect, if everything goes ideally as it goes, we would have a better world on many levels. And there is for me, I don't believe that there is a sustainable fashion industry if there is no racial and gender justice. So it really, many steps needs to happen. And not only, we don't need brands just saying, oh, look, this is our sustainable line and buy it. No, this is not enough. The more needs to happen, but also the consumers needs to be informed. And it's not only about, that they can see window displays in saying, oh, look, this is a sustainable brand, and then they will buy it because they think, oh, I'm doing something good. No, we have to start already with children, learning them what it is to make clothes. How does that work? What is sewing of garment means? Where does wool come from? Where does food come from? So that we redevelop the relationship with nature and the things, how we behave with each other. So I do believe that if all this happens, we will have a better world. I mean, I'm worried as well that aren't we too late? How many damage is already being caused? And are we able to solve this? I mean, sometimes with Fashion Clash, I mean, we are a small organization. We have our, let's say, impact within our own network and community. But are we doing enough? But everybody should ask themselves these questions, especially the ones that have more power than we do. I hope that how we work is inspiring for others. And we have always had this very open way of approaching the world and the world around us. And we've tried to make it democratic and open as possible in what we do. And we hope that others will do that as well. Other organizations, other companies, other universities, because I had a feeling my own world and my own me as a person, I've become a richer person by doing this the way we do. And I've seen it happening around our projects, that you can really inspire and change lives by opening up and by collaborating, by being curious for one another, by sharing your knowledge and methodologies. And because it's sometimes also you really have to look, what are we doing and where is the impact? Really look at the impact. For example, in our case, we are mostly funded by public money because we get government money. And we always felt a big responsibility for this, that if we get public, we want to do something in return for the society. And we've always done 200% more than what we were supposed to do with the money. And because I felt like, yeah, okay, we are greatly supported, but we are going to be greatly contributing to the society. And so I hope that when people see what we do, that they get inspired, and that maybe our approach will stimulate them to cross-disciplinary approach their practice as well, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. We try to, although obviously we have future plans, we have to do it because we get a long year support. However, we always try to look things year by year, project by project, because the world is literally changing sometimes in a month. You know, I mean, 3 months ago, the conflict in Ukraine was not happening. So how are we not supposed to look at that again? You know, like to really look, okay, what are we doing now? Is this still relevant? Can we do something that can be relevant now? So this is how we approach. I mean, obviously we try to make plans and strategies, but at the same time, we try to also look at the now. So what is happening now? Are we doing enough what we can do at the current state? So if I would look at Fashion Clash, I hope that we remain as critical as we have always been to what we do as well, you know, not only to society, but also how we work, if that is impactful enough.